Hello friends, it's Dave here from SaveDex bringing you another Nintendo Switch review. I set myself a goal for 2021 to break my backlog, play through all sorts of games that I have in that backlog this year, live stream them when I can and bring you a review if I have enough to say about it. Well, on the 4th day of the year I completed my first game, and that game was Pumpkin Jack, an action platformer with a spooky Halloween aesthetic. Now that I have beaten that game, I will bring you my thoughts. If you want to see me play through this game, the entire stream is archived on the channel over 2 videos. We've recently passed 400 subscribers on this channel, which is fantastic. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to us. So if you want to join the party and see what other backlog games I take on next, then hit that subscribe button and keep up with our videos that way. So, on to the review. My time with Pumpkin Jack was a fun one, plain and simple. From the trailers I immediately thought of Medieval on the PlayStation, a game I haven't played much, but Sophie is a fan of that game, so she was very interested to watch me play. The game is an action platformer. Each level follows a linear path as you run forward, jump across platforms, fight enemies and solve puzzles from time to time. You start the game with a shovel as your weapon, just hit that Y button and watch him swing it around. The jumping I found can be a bit floaty when it comes to the platforming sections. I sometimes drifted too far to one side, which can make it more difficult, and I was using a Pro controller the entire time, so no, Joy-Con drift was not the problem here. Jack himself is the Devil's Pariah, and he sets out to destroy the world. You are basically playing as the villain here, which is a nice twist on the usual formula I suppose. He has a few buddies to help him on his quest. There's an owl who basically halts the gameplay to tell you what to do next when you come across him, and then there's the crow who sits on your head. We named him Russell. He serves a purpose. With a press of the L button you can launch him as a projectile. He'll take out some of the weaker enemies like the skulls on sticks in one shot, but he won't do much damage to most. The combat is very basic, and for the most part I was just button mashing my way through these sections. You do get a dodge when you press the A button to use, but it wasn't needed all that much, well not until towards the end of the game anyway. At the end of each level you get a boss battle. Each one has their own attack pattern and they are all unique to each other, but they all came down to just evading them until your time to attack comes, hit them 3 times and you win. After each level you get a new weapon. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose is for the different weapons when it comes to the gameplay, as when I got a new weapon I just used it for that level and didn't notice any difference in how they played. The 3rd level gave me a sword that could talk and said it will teach me how to fight properly. I assumed I would get new moves on this level, but it didn't happen. Then the next weapon was a shotgun, which controlled pretty much the same and didn't seem to have more range than the sword. If it's a case of each weapon being stronger than the last, then that's fine, or maybe each weapon is more effective against certain enemies. I didn't work out anything like that. It did allow you to switch your weapon back to a previous one at any time, but I never saw the point as they all seemed to play the same. It made me think it would have been cool if each weapon had an extra function outside of attacking, such as the first one being a shovel. Maybe you need to equip it at diggable areas. The second one has a hook on it, so maybe you could have used that to swing across some gaps. There are plenty of other things to do outside of the combat and platforming. There are sections where you have to remove your head and send it to an underground area where you'll be given a challenge room. These are always fun. There are plenty of modes of transport you'll come across in the levels as well. You'll have these minecarts which are a lot of fun and harken back to Donkey Kong Country. Then there are some not so great ones, like these handcar races where you have to mash the B button the whole time. Hitting a wall is death, and you have to race these knights who give themselves boosts at the last second. And I thought Mario Kart 64's rubber banding was unfair. There are also some collectibles to be found. Each level contains 5 Christmas presents to find, a gramophone and 20 crow skulls. These crow skulls can be used as currency to buy costumes when you come across the merchant. They don't change anything, but they are fun to see. I loved how this game looked. It had a dark and spooky tone, but its use of bold colours made things stand out and it was very appealing to the eye. Each level has a different theme which makes them stand out from each other. The music was really good too. Hopefully you've been enjoying hearing it throughout this video. There is voice acting in the cutscenes between the levels of a narrator telling the story so far.
It was an age of prosperity, without anything to fear of war, famine, catastrophe. It was so very boring.
But during gameplay, the character dialogue is text only, which made for some fun times during our streams, providing the voices ourselves.
You oversized butter knife. If you call that mess of a fight I just saw commendable, I thoroughly question your tutelage.
You don't question someone's tutelage. I am Jack, and I like you already. We didn't have many issues with the performance in this game, it all ran smoothly, and the only frequent problem I had was the floatiness of the jumps that I mentioned earlier. There was one moment in the second level where we had to clear an area of enemies to make a platform rise. After we killed them all, the platform didn't rise, and we spent quite a while scouting around this room trying to work out how to progress. We ended up taking a death to restart the area, and on the second try it did work. It was a strange thing to happen, but it was just the one time. And speaking of deaths, you do have unlimited lives on each level, and instead of your lives counting down, it counts up the number of deaths you had, which I suppose could count as a high score thing, so that you can see how far through the game you can get with as little deaths as possible, which I think is a good way to handle lives in modern games with frequent saves and checkpoints. And the checkpoints are quite frequent as well, pretty much every time you find one of these cauldrons laid about, and you can drink this mysterious substance to fill up your health. Although there are no checkpoints on the boss fight, even if you die on the third phase you are going right back to the start. There are 6 levels in this game, and it took us just under 5 hours to beat it. In a way, that wasn't a bad thing, as despite the variety between levels, the general gameplay did begin to feel repetitive, and I think the game ended at the right time. I remember Knack on PS4, that was a similar sort of game, although with more variety in what you could do, and although I played it all the way through to the end, I was ready for it to finish before I was even halfway through. That was not an issue here though, it didn't outstay its welcome and it knew when to end. The game sits at £15.99 on the eShop. I think that's a bit high for what the game offers. Like I said, there are 6 levels and under 5 hours, with the game feeling a bit basic and repetitive at times. But if you see it on sale, then it is definitely worth getting. Although the basic gameplay can feel a bit samey, there is enough variety to keep things fresh, and the characters are enjoyable and fun to be with. Pumpkin Jack is a fun time overall, with just a few shortcomings, and there is room to expand on some ideas for a sequel, with extra moves or giving the weapons different functions, for example. Then you would have the makings for a bigger franchise with a popular mascot character. This game is an impressive feat for such a small team. When the price is a little bit lower, it's definitely one to get. Thank you for watching this review. What did you think of this game? Let me know down below, and make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with us and see what else I can break from my backlog. Thank you again. See you in the next one.